Hey, I'm glad you're back. Welcome to Make His Path Straight. Today, we're going to talk about the fourth of the four foreign women who are in the direct lineage of Jesus Christ himself. Today, our discussion is with Bathsheba. A very familiar name, familiar story, but I'm thinking there'll be a few things in here that God's going to show you that are brand new to you. Excited to go through this lesson with you. And so it's hard to separate David from Bathsheba, so we're going to get insights into both their lives then as we go along. So let's begin, shall we? 2 Samuel chapter 11. I encourage you to get your Bible out and come and read along, make some notes there. Here we go. In the spring of the year, the time when kings go out to battle. Why in the spring of the year? Well, the roads are dry, etc. They've had all winter to rest, etc. So in the springtime, that's when kings go out to battle. David sent Joab, that's his commander. David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel. Everybody had to go to war except David. David remained at Jerusalem. So the first insight that we can get to King David is what? Well, he's negligent in his duty. He should be out there. These were the days when the kings would go out to war. Not David. He stayed home. So that is going to play into the entire story right there. He's negligent in his duty. And it came to pass in an eventide that David arose from off his bed. Anything peculiar about that? He arose off his bed. That means he's in bed during the day. That's what it means. So that's backwards, right? His lifestyle is mangled. He's either partying and drinking and having a great time, sleeping all day long, getting up at eventide. Not cool. So as he walked upon the roof of the king's house, and from the roof he saw a woman. From the roof he saw a woman. Job had said, I have made a covenant with my eyes. How then could I gaze? How then can I think upon a virgin? How then can I give more than just a glance, but a keen, prying eye? That's what David did here. He lingered. He lingered where he shouldn't have been. He was in a spot where he didn't need to be. And he saw a woman on the roof washing herself. Now, since I was a kid and heard this story for the first time, I thought she was just bathing out there. No, she was washing herself. The word means to wash off, to wash away. It was a ceremonial cleansing that she was doing at that time. And so nothing suggests, incidentally, that she saw him, right? So let's get our insights into Bathsheba. And the first question I've always had is, why wash where you can be seen? That's what I wondered about. But see, all the able-bodied men were gone. They were gone. All of Israel went to the war. That's where they were. So she felt very secure. Furthermore, her house was next to the palace. It had to be. That's how David was able to see her from his roof. And so how more protected can you be than next to the king's house, huh? And I think also she was very naive, because she had a pedigree that would ensure her safety. And we're going to talk about her pedigree here in just a moment. And I think it'll be eye-opening for all of us. Well, she was very beautiful, exceedingly good appearance, the scripture says. And so he fakes not knowing her. David fakes not knowing. David is a big, fat liar. He fakes not knowing her. He inquired after her. And one said, notice how ambiguous this person is. Somebody said, is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam? Now, you'll notice this word Eliam, that her father, his name's going to pop up again, the wife of Uriah. You know who she is, David. I mean, really? You asking me this question? Hey, let's go a little further. He fakes not knowing her for sure. And so he sends his minions over to take her. And David sent messengers, and he took her. And she came in unto him. But, what is she expecting? What do you think she was expecting when she went in? To be seduced? I can't wait to get out. I've just had my fresh bath. Let's go in and get friendly with the king. None at all. I think she wanted to hear news of the war. Now, why would I say that? Because King David might have had news about her husband, Uriah, one of the mighty men. That was a designation. This was a special troop, kind of the king's protected, the elite troops of the king. And Uriah was one of those elite troopers of the king. And not only him, his father, her own father, Eliam, was also one of the mighty men. So now here she is, her husband and her dad, part of the inner circle, the inner workings of the circle of David. And not only that, it even something else. Her grandfather was one of his chief counselors. Do you really think any way that David didn't know who she was? With this kind of pedigree she had, of course, he must have known who she was. So anyway, he lays with her because she was purified from her uncleanness. Now this goes back to her ceremonial cleansing. Go to book of Leviticus, you can read all about that kind of stuff. So she was cleansing herself, she was purifying herself, and so she's available then, and he takes care of business right there. And then what happens is you stick around? No, she has to return to her house. Okay, I've had enough of you, get lost. So she conceives. And he sent and told David, I am with child, right? So she's bold. She faces the truth. I'm not going to take this with my husband off to war and I'm pregnant. Hey, I'm with child. What are we going to do about that? But see, he's bold to cover up the truth. She wants to face the truth. He's bold to cover it up. So he sends for Uriah, the husband. Ooh, oh, that's sneaky Pete right there. We'll get the husband to come home. He'll take a nice bath, boy, be in his own house. And maybe then at that point in time, if they have relations, then the baby will be confused and everyone's going to think it's his baby. Okay, that sounds like a great plan. Huh? That's what he wants to do, right? So he does all this stuff. He's polite to him. He sends him home to his wife. He sends him gifts. But Uriah says, nah, how can I possibly go to my wife and be comfortable when my troops are laying on the ground? So David even gets him drunk to try and get him to go with the wife, right? He multiplies his unrighteousness more and more deceitful and evil. In fact, Uriah, even when he's been drinking, he says, no, I can't possibly go see my wife because my troops. He's so loyal. What a great witness. So David, even worse, sends him off to certain death. And how does he do it? He writes a letter to Joab, his commander, and sends it by the hand of Uriah. That is dirty pull, man. And what was the purpose of the letter? That he may be struck down and die. Oh, wow. And so he embroils other in his treachery. Poor Joab, now he has to deal with this. Oh, by the way, Uriah, welcome back from Jerusalem. Hope it all went well. You're looking healthy. Okay, I'm going to have you killed now by putting you in where the tightest battle is and then withdraw our support from you. Terrible, terrible. But here's something interesting that David does then. Thus shalt thou say unto Joab, let not this thing trouble thee, for the sword devoureth one as well as another. Look at it. It devours one as well as another. Joab, you better keep your trap shut or you're going to be next. That's how you read that. So he makes death threats now to cover up his sin. Nasty bit of work. Where she's left to wait in uncertainty. That's an insight to her. That's all she had. And so when the wife of Uriah heard that Uriah finally had died, the news came back that his dad, she mourned for her husband, and probably mourning just seasoned with some guilt. She never had a chance to be alone with him again, never had a chance to hold his head, to caress him, and to kiss him on the face. All these things, nope. All she had was his pregnancy now. Wow, terrible. And so when the mourning was past, which according to Deuteronomy was 30 days, David didn't waste any time. And I love King James, it says, sent and fetched her to his house like a dog, to gather, to collect. What a nasty way to say that. Oh man, it's nasty. And she became his wife and bore him a son. That's how they're going to cover this whole thing up. It looks like the cover-up is completely complete. Everything's going good. I finally got all this off my chest. I'm doing okay. But the thing that David had done displeased the Lord. Man. So he was living with his back to the Lord. That was for sure, huh? Now we fast forward again a little bit. God sends Nathan the prophet in, and he proclaims, there's going to be consequences, dude. There's consequences. The sword, death, struggles. There's going to be trouble within your own household. The taking of your wives by others. As we know, the story of Absalom was certainly along this line, was fulfilled. And Nathan comes in and says, man, you're in for it, buddy. You thought you're getting away with this? Nah, there's consequences to your behavior. And then ultimately, too, the death of Bathsheba's baby was also included in these consequences. But David finally wakes up and is convicted, and he repents, and he said unto Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And interesting, in Psalm 91, which was a psalm that was written as a result of this episode in his life, he says, against thee only have I sinned. That's a difficult statement, isn't it? Because when you sin, and when I sin, what we're saying is that we're really sinning against God. And it's a great way to start thinking about that. Because if we say, I don't want to sin against God anymore, I'm not as likely to sin against you. Against thee only have I sinned, and done this evil in thy sight, that thou art mightiest to be justified when thou speakest, and be clear when thou judgest. Wow. Wow. And so he instructs all sin is against God, and that is a good thing, a good insight for you and I to bear in mind as well. So Nathan said, the Lord has put away thy sin, thou shalt not die. He's going to pass over. Same phrase as used back in Egypt when the angel of death passed over those houses that had the blood of the lamb on the doorpost and on the lintel. Same phrase. And so God passes over. He puts away the sin of David because David had repented, And so God remembers her, though. That's an insight, even what she's been through. God remembers her. How do I say that, right? Because then David comforted his wife, and she gave birth to a son, and she named him Solomon. Now there's a familiar name, Now the Lord loved him. The Lord loved Solomon. Isn't God something? You think maybe you'd have something in reserve against this kid, because the whole thing was kind of a mess getting into it, but he loved Solomon. And so when I say God remembered Bathsheba, look at this. 6 different princes were born to David in Hebron. Hebron is where David had his headquarters earlier on. Hebron is where Abraham is buried, is there. Abraham and Isaac are buried in this tomb in Hebron. So David made his headquarters there, and while he was there at that time, 6 different princes were born to him. And then when he moved to Jerusalem, 11 different princes were born to David in Jerusalem. And you see Solomon, whoa, he's number 10 in line for the throne. You gotta know that the next guy in line wanted to be king. And the next guy after him, if the first one wasn't able, he wanted to be king as well. There were 9 in front of Solomon. No, 10 in line in front of him. He was 10th for the throne. All these other 9, they wanted to be king, and yet God worked it out. It was totally a God thing. God remembered her. He remembered her by making Solomon, her son, king. And she was fully vulnerable to the will of God, whatever you say, dear Lord. And her only claim was a promise given, because David had said, hey, listen, you promised me, David, that my son would be on the throne. And she recognized authority. She submitted to authority. Beautiful insights into her testimony. And she placed herself under God's protection. Don't forget, if one of these 9 kids is going to get aced out of being the throne, they're going to go after Solomon and after her. Hey, I don't want her testifying that David made a special promise about Solomon being king. I'm going to kill them both. That's what would happen. And yet, God protected her because she placed herself under God's protection. And Solomon sat on the throne of David his father, and his kingdom was firmly established. Wow. What a story. That's a story of Bathsheba. Just an amazing thing. She was someone who showed obedience, great patience, endurance. She just had to wait and go through stuff, but she was determined. And in the end, God justified her. What a great and beautiful story. Next time that we meet, lesson 59, we're going to make some personal applications. We're going to take these 4 women and what they learn and the insights that we gain into their character, and we're going to turn them around and look into them as a mirror and see what we can learn from some personal applications of these women. Until then, I trust that you'll contact me on those contact numbers right there. Please subscribe to the channel. And I just so grateful that you tuned in right here. And until we meet again, may the Lord bless you as you go.